Thank you for having me. It's great to be here in this context. I'm often playing music. I've been playing with Mary since my daughter was born, slightly before 2009, up in Santa Rosa. So Mary was immediately like my mentor, and I was her music director in Santa Rosa, and felt a kinship right away. And Amanda, so we used to play together in the music scene up there. And you've heard me speak about synchronicity, but I've always felt that synchronicity was not the whole picture. It's not just a coincidence of a license plate that tells me I'm on the right track, like all sevens, because my favorite number is 7. And I had to experience this past year of really investing myself in my local community, in my school. And let me start my timer so I know how far. Time is not linear, right? And I want to share this as not only as a story and a lesson in how to use synchronicity to make change in the world and to depolarize our conversations with people and our relationships, but also as a confessional. The first time I was told this story, because it's been a year of work and some suffering in my community that I've learned a lot from. And so I'm looking forward to sharing that with you, hopefully with some vulnerability, and you get to see what that's been like for me. My hope is that this kind of work can change the world, because we need this at an individual level. The microcosm that we have, if it's peaceful, becomes a macrocosm through the debates on the governor's stage and through the media, through the sports teams that play, all the ways that our personal lives are reflected in the bigger ennui of the civilization. So I'm going to talk about the science of mind principle. We are creative. Right? Ernest Holmes said, we create through our thoughts, through our consciousness. And can you hear me okay? Okay. And I'm going to tell you this. Polarization, as strong as it is in the world, with the politics and even the just belief in different religions and different realities, different futures, different contexts we have about chemtrails and vaccines and mask wearing and all this stuff that we've experienced a lot this past decade is not about the content. It's not about the content. It's not about those things. It's about 3 things. This is my hypothesis. Style, our personal style, the way we are, the way we like to be. Our emotions, our hidden emotions, the ones we're not sure, we're not aware of, that we're acting from and reacting from. So style, emotions, and wholeness. We are part of a big whole, but we only got a slice of it, right? So if we miss any part of the whole, which we always miss part of the whole, we don't have a full picture of what somebody else might be thinking or feeling or needing. And so when we come at the world with our personal style, and we might mismatch someone else's style, and we have a hidden emotion that's driving our intensity, and we're missing the wholeness of their perspective, we can't even imagine how they could possibly feel the way they feel, that's polarization, right? That's where whether it's on the news or it's in your Thanksgiving dinner table, where you can't have a conversation because there's this barrier with somebody. So style, emotion, and wholeness. And to me, this is a way to make it more personal at one time. Like, this is not about solving a political problem, it's about solving a personal problem, how I show up in the world. And it also depersonalizes it. It makes it not about you against me around some issue, but just around having some more curiosity for each other and our points of view. So I want to tell you about the journey I was on this past year. I started on Martin Luther King Day last year, 25. I wanted to get involved in a local thing, because I was going to go to Oakland. I live in El Cerrito. I was going to go to Oakland and do a march with everybody, but it's really big, and thought, there's got to be something happening in my neighborhood. I want to get local. I had this desire to be local. And so I looked up, and there was a march near my school. I went to it, and it ended up ending at my school. I teach high school. So I was basically at home, the place that I've been before. I was familiar, and it was like, this is my community. I was being led back into my community. And I met the superintendent of the school district who was speaking there, and she said this clue to me, this synchronistic clue. Ready for it? make you wait. She said, the biggest challenge we have in the school is the lack of parent involvement. Lack of involvement. I thought, well, that sounds like a community issue. You know, I'm a big fan of building community to solve problems. And so I decided to get involved in the school board just to go and see what was going on, and I went the next week. And I happened to show up on the 1 week of the year, literally, where they were voting on budget cuts. And I was like, no, this is terrible. Nobody was in the audience. It was like, I felt like I was the only one watching it. And they said, we're cutting the budget because we've lost attendance. Students aren't coming to school, and we get paid for attendance. You know, students come, we get average daily attendance money. So I said, well, that sounds like the same problem, right? Community involvement. Kids don't want to come to school because they don't feel invested in their school. So I connected these dots between what the superintendent told me about community involvement and what the board said about students not coming to school. And I got invested in creating a group of networking parents and teachers and community members to build community as a solution. Not to fix the budget, but to build community, because that's the underlying problem, right? So if I want to fix the budget, I come up against somebody's ideas right away, like that's the wrong idea, opinions. But I wanted to fix the underlying problem, which is that we're not connected with each other. But I want to tell you how this reflected my style. The way I did this, it reflected my style and the hidden emotions I brought to it, and how I didn't see the wholeness of the situation. There was it's polarization between the union and the district, right? The teachers' union is very adamantly pro-teachers, pro-raises, pro-students, pro-good environment for learning and teaching. And the district is trying to manage the money. So it's a really polarized environment. And I got involved by, there's a 2-minute comment period every meeting. You can speak for 2 minutes. I started speaking at these meetings, and my style was sort of combative and interruptive. Even with the union, like we had a rally outside, they were marching with signs, and I wanted to play music, so I brought my guitar and I tried to lead songs, and people were not doing it. They wanted to chant chants on the megaphone, and I was frustrated by like come on, let's all get together and sing and make this more meaningful for me, right? It'd be more meaningful for me. So I wasn't having a lot of sense of what I wanted to have happen, but I was trying really hard to invest myself and intersect what was happening. And the way I was communicating was interrupting, so that's the style piece. What I was feeling was I was personally affected. I was feeling kind of hurt, left out, angry, but personally, like this is the wrong thing for our schools, and I need to fix it. I need to step in and do something about it. I was personally scared about what was going on. Some part of me was being touched, and I was reacting from there. And the wholeness that I missed was that there was an existing power dynamic. The union and the district have a way that they interact with each other. These people demand something, these people say no, these people demand again, these people come a little closer, and then there's a strike, which ends up happening. There was a strike last year, once the first time ever in our district. That's a climax in a minute. And they had this dynamic which was satisfying ultimately to them. Like they were actually content with this battle. I thought they wanted to solve things. I thought they wanted to resolve the budget issues, the teacher cuts. But what I learned was that there was a hidden piece, which is that they actually had a relationship and a dynamic that they were used to. And I came in as an unwanted force to try and bring peaceful solutions that didn't actually solve what each of them was looking for. So my style at that point was interruptive. I had a hidden emotion of being personally driven to like make sure that I got my say in there. I was included, and I didn't see that there was a bigger picture that I wasn't really part of. Do you see how this style, emotions, and wholeness sort of? I don't notice it in the moment, right? But I go home and I take a overnight. I think on it, and overnight, and a week later at the next board meeting, I think to myself, oh, so this is what was going on. it sort of dawns on me through some meditative moments. I didn't realize that they don't actually want my solution to fix their problem, or that my solution might not be appropriate for everybody's needs. I have got some limitations on what I can see. So that was a difficult period. It was the first 6 months from February through June. I was gone a lot because I was missing my family, and I was at the board meetings on Wednesday nights. And there was one big rally where everyone showed up at my school. It's a whole district, right? 55 schools in West Contra Costa County. And they showed up at my school. Every other town hall had been like populated by 5 people. My school, I fought to get people to come. I passed out flyers. I went to McDonald's and stood there with flyers to families that I knew that they went to our school. And we had like 100 people show up. I was so stoked. And but I was feeling combative, and I interrupted the board when they spoke. They said some things that weren't true, and I was committed to, my personal truth about what needed to be said. And I didn't come away as the hero that day. I came away as the argumentative, kind of belligerent teacher, let's just say, for lack of a derogatory word. So I learned from that process that my style wasn't serving. I was perpetuating this polarization. It was just continuing. It wasn't helping. And the next phase was in July through November. I just pieced it out for myself. So July was the end of the fiscal year, and I got this miraculous moment at the end of the last board meeting where I stayed for the very end because I'm committed to staying. That's one of my practices, is to stay all the way through, even if I think I'm done, like following through. Not easy for me. One of the reasons I do music most of the time, but then I also write books, and I also teach, and I also do computer science, is because I don't finish things. So I committed to just following this through, And it paid off because the last thing that was said at 11:30 at night, that night, by the board chair was, we have a parcel tax we have to renew. $10 million that we count on every year, and it's going to expire. If only we had somebody in the community that wanted to take this on who doesn't work for us. A volunteer, a parent, a teacher. And I interrupted, and I said, I'll do it. So my interrupting style worked at that point. But I jumped in and I said yes. And so I took on this thing that was aligned, right? I was aligning myself with the needs of the community. I wasn't against budget cuts. I was for voting, for getting out to vote for a parcel tax that everyone had paid for already for 2 decades. It felt very much like a new phase of alignment. I started researching budgets and how they worked in schools because it's complicated. And I met a woman named Madeline who was a synchronicity for me. Now, Madeline was the former school board member of 20 years. Happened to be the parent of my daughter's favorite teacher. So we're like former roommates or something. No, imagine that. My daughter's favorite teacher had a parent who was on the board who was now mentoring me. And so she became this great source of information. And she tuned me into a secret website where they had all the information about the budget for the school. I could, as a physicist, I like to look at numbers, and I could download all the numbers and sort of start to understand what they were talking about at the meetings. And I could say that's true, and that's not true. And I began to know more than other people about the budget. And I lost respect for people. So my style became this sort of I actually know more than you guys about this topic. There was a secret meeting I discovered so I went to LA with my daughter for visiting colleges. My daughter's grown up. I met Mary the year my daughter was born. She's now going to college in a year. So we went to LA, and I was irritated because I discovered that there was a special meeting of the board while I was gone, and nobody had advertised it. They were talking about new budget cuts. And I was on that meeting, and none of the union was there. None of my colleagues were there. So I was feeling this sort of arrogance, like I'm doing all the work here. I know so much more than other people. And I lost respect. Have you ever communicated from a place of not having respect for people? Think of someone in your life that you've not had respect for. How do you talk to them? What's it like to converse? I mean, for me, it was like the feeling that was hidden from me was I was mad because I'd given my power over to them. I'd said, "You guys know what you're doing. I'm gonna follow along," but I ended up knowing more, or I felt like I did. So I wasn't polite. I was belligerent and dramatic. I got very dramatic. Like, "You guys got to show up to this meeting. I can't believe they were in secret and they held the vote incorrectly and all these things that people needed to know, and I was so certain that they needed to know it. So my style was just reflecting that. It felt very polarized to me. What I didn't know, again, this is always the key point, right? At the end, realizing what you don't know or don't see. A few more minutes. I gotta keep track of the nonlinear time. My new tracker. I love it. So what I didn't realize is that they have a common need with each other, and I didn't share that. And their need was people in the union weren't actually interested in my truth, my facts. Ever been with people that aren't interested in your facts? You're certain about how things went, and you're trying to explain to your parent or your kid, like, no, this is what actually happened. See it my way. And your facts might be right, but they don't want to join you in that agreement. Well, the union folks and my fellow teachers had a different need than mine. I learned that their need, and it took me a while of feeling left out and frustrated to learn this. They sought to feel empowered, right? They worked in classrooms and felt like they didn't have any choices over the money that they got and the hours that they worked and the jobs that they had. And when they fought back with the strike, they were seeking to be empowered, to feel strong, feel powerful. And I was seeking more to get to the bottom of this. I wanted to solve this issue. Like, it was an intellectual problem I wanted to solve. And they were trying to feel a certain way, feel connected and powerful. So to them, to the union, the district was a perfect enemy, right? It's their fault. We can march with signs, we can demand that we get more money. We win, it's done. And so to them, that satisfied their goal and their need. And when we did win the strike, it was successfully raised the salaries and got new teacher benefits for special education, all good stuff. But I wasn't going for that. I didn't feel safer because I had learned through my research that there was a much bigger global problem. Every school district in California is facing the same situation, which is that there's a rise in contracting spending, private spending, since 2021. And I had learned this. I had actually discovered this through my research, that in 2021, you remember there was a pandemic happening, schools started relying more and more on private teachers because they had a need for folks in the classroom. What I was learning that other people didn't understand was that this is driven by a market effort by companies to get into schools. Companies are trying to get in the door to get the money from the public schools. And the graph went like this. Not just my district, every district in California, save maybe 10. So I've got a document with like 1,000 districts. They're all doing this. This was not a local thing, right? I had no interest in fighting against my school board. So I didn't feel any safer when we won the union battle. They all felt resolved, and I felt really isolated because they were just so happy, and I was not happy. I was not celebrating. So again, my communication there was like I was dramatic. I felt like I knew more than everybody else. That was my style. I was hiding the fact that I was angry that I didn't have more respect for myself, and I didn't understand that they had a different need than mine. That they were after feeling the success of the combat, and I was after some deeper truth. Phase 3 started after the strike. I made a big personal change. I went down to 80% time. I decided to change my life. Took back some control over my time. I negotiated to have 80% time in the classroom so I could have more free time and get paid less. You know, sometimes you got to make those choices. And it wasn't an easy conversation with my wife or with the principal. She's like, how do we do that? I made up a way to do it where I'm not there on Tuesdays, and I have the same substitute teacher every Tuesday, so it's like the same person continuity, and it was like this ingenious way to solve my problem and have some space for myself. But I ended up getting involved every Tuesday with this issue at a deeper level. I went to Sacramento. So I changed my focus from the local conflict to Sacramento, the capital. I started sharing graphs of the districts in Walnut Creek with Tim Grayson, senator from that area, and Buffy Wicks from East Bay, and Damon Connolly from Nevada and Marin. They all have graphs that do the same thing, and I just wanted to talk to them and try and understand what we could do. And so my way of communicating changed to being my own path. I divorced my path from the local conflict. I knew that didn't align with me anymore. I didn't have to solve it. I wasn't going to solve it. In fact, I gave up on thinking that I could solve that. Somehow I could be the hero for these people, and they could see me a certain way. I felt I deserved that, but I understood that I had a particular vantage point that they didn't share, and people don't look at me the way that I want them to look at me or the things that I look at. I had to accept that there was a disconnect. It wasn't that they didn't like me, but I wasn't going to get them to look at things my way. And that was hard. It was a little painful to realize that and be able to not take responsibility for their path and take my own path. Anybody in your life any time in your life where you feel like you have to justify taking your own path, separating from someone else's path? Feel a little guilty maybe that you're not there to keep aligning with them. I knew that aligning with them and trying to get them to come my way was not actually serving them either. So I went to Sacramento and I started getting involved there. And I had my allies. I focused on my allies. I had Madeline and some other folks in the area that were totally aligned with what I was doing. And I got some new allies in the Senate and the Assembly. And this is a new space of like mutual interests. I shared mutual interests with people, but I had no obligation to them. My style was informative. I was resolute. My feeling was resolution. I was committed to following this through for everybody, but for me in particular. And it was the knowing that kids would be better off if I succeeded that drove me to keep doing it, whether or not I got along with the people in my school district. And that was a hard learning for me, to let go of the personal relationships a bit and just not have to have them be perfect in order to get what I needed to do completed for my school district and my family and my community in the way that I felt was important. But I'm still missing some information about the government level that I'm working at, right? Because they have a special way of doing things in Sacramento. There's a network of people. We found a bill, AB 2223. Call your senator, tell them to change this bill, because this bill addresses the contracting spending that's happening in prisons, not schools. All they need to do is apply it to schools also, and it would solve our problem. It would be the first step. So now I'm advocating for that. But as simple as it seems to just say, look, you're already solving this for prisons, you know it is a problem, apply it to my situation too. They have a way of doing things in Sacramento. There's relationships there, there's a network there that has to work processes that work a certain way. And I am recognizing my limitations there as well. Like I can't just come in with some logical solution and say, here it is, I figured it out for you. It'd be nice if I could do that. I thought I could. I thought the data was enough. But it connects back to this principle of we are creative. We create from consciousness. Not everyone's going to be happy with our creation. Some people are comfortable with their limitations. They're comfortable with the way they operate currently. And the creative gift that we're giving them by stepping in with our creative ideas and our creative consciousness is to state what is possible. And it's going to make some people mad. It's not going to necessarily lead to the simple agreement that we want. But I think it does depolarize. Because polarization happens when we resist, we have no curiosity, when we're unwilling to learn. We can call each other out, we can speak our truth without making it personal. Without saying that, union leader, it's your fault that you didn't see my picture the way that I see it. I still see it this way, but I'm not going to hold you accountable for being a wrong person. Your style, your emotions, and your wholeness, what you see, your vantage point, are unique to you. And they don't have to match mine. So by recognizing these things, the style that we're approaching life with, relationships with, the emotions that we're hiding or not even aware of, that are driving our actions, and what we're aware of in the whole picture or not aware of in the whole picture, those things can describe the sense of disconnection that I feel in these relationships with the union, with my school district, with my teachers at school. And they can depersonalize the conflict. I think that depersonalization has made me feel more powerful because I can still stand by my view. But I'm not combating personally with a person and angry at them in particular. Because it's my choice to let go or hold on to the feelings that I'm holding on to with somebody. Take a minute and just imagine someone that you've had a conflict with or a disagreement with, if you're willing. And the tendency might be to hold on to that. Can you feel what it's like to want to hold on to that grievance? Just close your eyes for a minute if you want to and just feel into what that's like to hold somebody in your heart who you don't agree with, a polarized view. And what's the feeling you're holding on to? What's the style that you approach that relationship with, that they approach you with? Are they combative? Are they super confident and arrogant? Or are you frustrated with them all the time? What's the emotion? Is it you think they'd be better off if they just saw things your way? Desire to help them? A belief that you know better than them? What's the emotion that's driving you to have that, hold on to that conflict? And what's the wholeness? What's the wholeness that you can't quite see from your vantage point? What could you let into your heart that might expand your view a little bit more to see their view a little bit more? Feel free to open your eyes. On the sheet that I passed out, you have a sheet in front of you. It's a purple one, double size. There's these steps to look at the style that you're approaching life with, emotions that you carry, and the wholeness that you can or can't see. And at the bottom, take a look at the very bottom. It says, people don't feel corrected, they feel wider. I think we can do that. I think we can hold our point of view, hold our stance, our position in the world, without giving in to somebody else. We don't have to change them, but we can expand ourselves and expand them.
There we go,
Expanded. And we are going to have the resentment. We're going to have those feelings that we don't want to, that are negative. But we don't have to act from those. We don't have to nurture them as if they're our special thing. We can let them be in ourselves and also let them come and go. So I'm not suggesting you actively get rid of resentment or get rid of frustration with people. But take the time to not always act from there, See what else you can bring in, what you can let go of in the moment to find out what's underneath there for you. This is about your life and your science of mind, not them. So what's your path going to be? What are you going to feel? What are you going to choose to feel? Where are you going to act from? What are you going to create? And let's make each other wider. Thank you so much. And so I'd like to bring a moment of prayer to this. Let's just take a moment of prayer to be curious and call in curiosity and send forth for the rest of our day an intention to identify with the curiosity in ourselves, the divine curiosity about others, about the way things are that we may not understand or see from our vantage point. And with gratitude, I call in this curiosity that is my birthright, and I release it unto the law, and so it is. Thank you so much.